I was hiking the other day and I was thinking about some of my girlfriends that had not put their list of everything they wanted in a husband, their soulmate list, into the notes of their phone, because we talked about it several times. And they have this resistance to doing that, one little thing that's, what I did, and it helped me really focus on what I wanted to create. And I read it and I edited it every day. It's one of the strategies. And I was thinking about, why is it that we don't do things that are good for us? Why don't we do things that would help us attract love? Why don't we do things when we know it worked for somebody else and it could work for us? And then I was thinking about, in all areas of our lives, why don't we stop binge watching on Netflix and, watch 4 episodes in a row? I know I do it all the time. Why don't we stop drinking soda? I used to be completely addicted to Diet Coke, and I would drink it all day long, and it was very difficult to stop, but I finally did. And everybody knows soda's not bad for you, and why don't we read more books? We know that reading is really good. We know it's great. Why don't we stop eating sugar and stop drinking alcohol? And about 2 months ago, we started this program. It's called 75 Hard, and the rules are no alcohol. So I just decided to do a complete sugar cleanse. So no sugar of any kind. There are other rules, working out twice a day, and one has to be outside, which has been amazing. But we've been feeling so good and sleeping so well. It just dawned on me that I think that one of the reasons may be when we don't do things that we know are good for us is I think that the reward is unknown. We actually don't know what it's like to feel like this. I've never gone without sugar and alcohol I've gone without alcohol, but I've never gone without sugar for two months straight. And I've never slept so well in my entire life. I've never done a workout every single day for almost 60 days straight. And it's been a really incredible thing. So that's when we download for the day. We go for a walk when John gets home. It's awesome. And then I was thinking, okay, how does that apply to attracting the love of your life and working on yourself and becoming the person you want to be, which is the way that you attract somebody that you really want to attract and you really want to be with, who's most like you. And it dawned on me that it's just because we only know what it's like to be in relationships like the ones that we've been in the past. We don't know what the rewards are. The rewards are so great that we don't know that to be true because we don't have the experience. We only have the experience of what we've been through in the past. So obviously you're like, nah, I'll pass. I don't really want to do that again. I don't want to have a relationship like I had before. Maybe you had somebody who's, you had a lot of chemistry and a lot of, romance and all that stuff, but maybe there was something else missing. Maybe he, didn't follow through on things, or he wasn't as driven or as successful as you wanted him to be. Or, maybe he was the best friend in the whole world and he always had your back, but you maybe didn't have the chemistry and you didn't have the romance, and or whatever it is. We only have what we've experienced. You don't know what you don't know. For other things, it's really easy to identify what the goals are and accomplish them. They're quantifiable. If you're an athlete, you know that you're the most successful athletes are the ones that are the first on the court and the last to leave. If you're a musician or a singer, you know that you're going to have to practice 4 to 6 hours a day. That's what you do. You have to. It's not work. It's not really a shock or a surprise. That's just what you're going to have to do if you want to be successful. And then you get up on stage. Everybody gets, you get a standing ovation or whatever it is that may be. Whatever is accomplished, it's definitely worth it. You know what the reward is like. So the very next day, you get your ass back into the practice room because that's what it takes. So the amount of work it takes is irrelevant because that's what you really want to do to be successful. Same with NBA players. There's amazing NBA players, but the ones that have accomplished the most, Michael Jordan and Kobe, they practiced the most. They had the best coaches. They had the most determination. They're the ones that were obsessed, and they knew what the reward was because they have all the money, all the wins. They have all the trophies, all the wins, all the everything. But if you're single and you've only been through, obviously, you've only had relationships that ended, some probably really badly, you may not know that the reward having a husband that is your partner in every sense of the word is 100% completely and totally worth it. It's worth all of the horrible dates, the blind dates, the, you know, the lonely nights at home, all the crying, all the work I did on myself, all the doing things alone, and you know, the being overwhelmed and having to run my household by myself, run a business, and, you know, be the mom and the dad, raise my kids alone on top of everything else, and be the breadwinner and all of it. But it's totally worth it. And if you think of relationships only in the context of what you've experienced, well then, yeah, you're gonna think, yeah, no, I'm not doing that again. You know, I used to say I'm never getting married, and, you know, being single is the best because I can do whatever the fuck I want. And, you know, if you're married to the right person, you still can do whatever the fuck you want. You can decide and create any kind of relationship. Your relationship doesn't have to follow any rules of any person you know, any person you've ever met. And that's the beauty of it. So speaking of Kobe and Michael, one of their coaches was Tim Grover. And one of his quotes that I love so much, it says, "You must crave the results so intensely that the work becomes irrelevant. Just doesn't really matter. You want the results, so it doesn't matter what you're gonna have to do, right?" You know, I think like a physical goal or a weight loss goal, that can be a little bit easier because you may have already been that weight before, and so you remember how good it feels to waltz around in the mall and feeling like $1,000,000 in your skinny jeans. You kind of remember what that feels like most of the time. So you're trying to get that feeling back. So you know what the reward is. You know you're not going to lose 10 pounds in a week. Well, John did, of course. But if you're normal, and you're a woman, you're not going to lose weight as fast as you want to. It takes a long time, and you have to keep at it. But you know what the result is because you have a feeling or an experience of what that result is. But a soulmate, a lifetime, forever love type of relationship, you probably don't know what it's like, most likely. And it's a lot harder to put into definite terms. What is doing all these things going to get me? So I thought, okay, what is the reward? How can you articulate that for people? You know, maybe all you've experienced is what happens at the beginning. You know, you've got all the hormones, the newness, and, you know, that's really infatuation. And infatuation, you know, it does wear off. Therapists call that beginning stage of the relationship, they call it the psychosis stage. They actually call it psychosis because you're not thinking clearly, your adrenaline levels are crazy, you don't sleep, you don't think about anything else, and it's super fun. I mean, a lot of people are addicted to that, and all they do is go in and out of relationships over and over and over, and as soon as that wears off, they're gone. They're bored, it's done, they're ready for the next one. But you know, I was thinking, what could possibly be the reward of writing your soulmate list, of, you know, doing some of the things that I did. I really worked on harmony in my home. I created a sanctuary in my room, all the things that I talk about, and reading and editing what I wanted to create every single day, because it kept me in that vibe, kept me in that space, kept me remembering this is what I want to create. I am creating this. God already chose him for me, and he's already on his way. And doing those things helped me stay there, stay in that mindset. And, you know, I think that one of the rewards, you know, some people immediately say, I really want intimacy, I want sex, I want romance. That's good. You know, I think sex and romance are one of the most amazing benefits of having a forever, lifetime love. But I think what we don't talk about is sex and romance with somebody who knows you the very best of any person on the planet to your core. It's an incredibly wonderful, it's almost liberating, because you can be yourself. He knows all of your scars, all of your cellulite, you know, all that stupid shit doesn't matter. Your failures, he knows everything that you failed, everything that you're ashamed of. And when you have that true intimacy, and only when you have that true intimacy, that can only be gained by someone you've been with for some time, that you can trust and you can respect and you can love. And that is it's a really an amazing thing. So it's definitely a huge reward. And I know that it takes a really special person and some time to, kind of peel back all the layers of your heart. You've guarded it, something happens, you put another layer on, something happens, you put another layer on, you have another breakup, you put another layer on, because you don't want to be hurt. You don't want that. And you want to avoid that suffering again. So we aren't vulnerable and we don't tell the truth, and it's really hard to be, at least it was for me, very hard to be authentic and very hard to talk about the things that I was ashamed about and about my past. It takes, a lot of faith and a lot of courage to show somebody your fears, your struggles, your mistakes, your pain, all of your dark side. It's really hard for us to show the dark side. We only want to show the good parts, right? All the parts that we like. That's easy to share. We share all that in the beginning. Excuse me. I know it's painful to admit that we're wrong, and it's really painful to, open up and be vulnerable when we've been hurt and we've been abused and so many times. But the reward is this unbreakable bond that you only have with this one person. You don't have that bond with anybody else. I don't trust anybody as much as I trust my husband. And I don't share with anybody what I share with my husband. And all the good, the bad, the ugly, the horrible, the bitchy, the, really scared, what I'm scared of, I only share with him. And that is kind of a sense of comfort. I think you can only have that ease and comfort when you share and when you're vulnerable. And that's an enormous reward. I'd never had that before. I had never experienced what that's like. That's why I'm trying to articulate it. I'm not articulating it well enough. But this comfort is not like you're never going to be comfortable ever again. It's like a knowingness that you will be okay. You have a team. You're part of an unbreakable team. You will get through all the challenges that come up, because you don't find your soulmate and then dance off into the sunset. We've had incredibly so difficult challenges. He had cancer. He switched jobs twice. We had to live apart for 3 months. And he had pneumonia. He was in the hospital 3 times. The first 2 years we were together, 3 years. And there's so much stress, so many challenges that, and then the whole time we're going through a massive court battle. But one of my favorite quotes is about, relationships. It's Tony Robbins, and he says, some of the biggest challenges in relationships come from the fact that most people enter a relationship in order to get something. They're trying to find someone who's going to make them feel good. In reality, the only way a relationship will last is if you see a relationship as a place that you go to give and not a place to go to take. And I love that. What if the reward is actually giving? What if that is the biggest benefit to having a soulmate, a husband, a partner in life, partner in every sense of the word, is what you get to give that you may have not ever experienced before. You giving love, your time, your efforts, your love notes, your body, your mind, your soul. You're actually giving and serving. You're serving others. You know how much joy you get from serving somebody who's had a hard day, or buying somebody lunch, or getting the perfect gift, or serving and helping your children, your family members. You know how much that gives you a lot of joy, right? It's really hard to be in a bad mood when you're serving somebody else, but when you have a partner that you can love and trust and respect and adore and cherish, even when you want to murder each other and you're upset with each other, because that happens all the time. We're 2 people, living in the same roof. 2 type A people. He's a Leo, I'm a Capricorn. So obviously, we have our own, communication, and we have normal shit that everybody has. But when you have that ultimate loyalty and trust and love, I think quite possibly the best reward is giving all of yourself to somebody who actually gives all of themselves back to you. And I really think that love and loving and loving others, especially a significant other, in my opinion, I think is one of our purposes in life. I don't think we have one purpose. I think we have many purposes. And I think that's one of the biggest reasons why we're here on this planet, is to love. And I think the biggest reward is to have that person and to give all of yourself and to be able to trust, really trust, and be vulnerable and be open. And so I just wanted to share that. And for anybody who might, want to hear that and might not know what is the reward for having another marriage, most of us have already been divorced, and we don't want to do that again. And I hope that, it resonates at all, and I hope that, it makes sense, and I hope that's something to think about, while you're striving to attract the best person. And I believe that really focusing on love and loving others and serving others is one of the best ways to attract more people who love and serve others, and and attract more people that are generous and compassionate, and doing those things and trying to become the best person you can possibly be, and the person you want to be, not what I want to be, what you want to be, is the best way to attract the best person that's meant for you, that you can love forever. And as long as you're together, and as long as you are on the planet together and all of that, we never know how much time we have. If you please subscribe to my channel, it really helps me a lot. I really appreciate it. I've got lots of free goodies, and on my website, mrskarenstanley.com. And you can also sign up for my newsletter. I send out a newsletter every single week, and make sure you follow me on Instagram at official Mrs. Karen Stanley, and on Facebook, Mrs. Karen Stanley. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'm wishing you lots and lots and lots of love.